Zhang Jiao was throwing one of his spoiled rich boy tantrums again. He refused to study and splashed ink right in my face. He insulted me without mercy, calling me a worthless orphaned mute. Thinking you can marry a top scholar like everyone else? Look in the mirror. You're not even worthy. I was worried he'd run off to fool around with his wealthy playboy friends again and make his mother furious. So I had no choice but to search for him, from tavern to tavern. Shilling is seriously so cheap. To shake her off, young Master Jiang got her completely drunk and pushed her into another man's room. And when she woke up, she didn't even cry or make a scene. It was like nothing had happened at all. What a shame my cousin didn't want that little mute. He didn't even touch a single hair on her head. Miss, Master is still waiting for your reply. The note read, "You mistook me for Zhang Jiyao and ruined my innocence. Should you take responsibility?" The master he spoke of was none other than Zhang Jiao's cousin, Pei Changyun. Just thinking about what happened that night made my face heat up with embarrassment. Clutching the charcoal pencil, I wrote back, "You should."
Yin Jiao got me drunk and pushed me to another man.
All because of a passing joke made by the woman he loved.
Young Master Jiang, you always brag about how much Xu Ling loves you.
But I don't buy it. We women value our innocence above all else. If you make a joke out of her innocence, and she still doesn't leave you, then she must be hopelessly, desperately in love with you. And so, Zhang Jiao made a bet with them to see if I would actually make a scene. That day, when I walked out of that room, I indeed didn't cry or throw a fit. You lost. You all lost. Those rich playboys sure have money to burn. A single bet had won him over 100 taels of silver. I reached out my hand for the money, gesturing to him. "Since you used me as a bet, shouldn't I get a cut? Look at how pathetic and desperate you are."
将只要是你，考领你破赛的败个。
And he tossed the coins to me like charity. Surviving in the capital is incredibly tough. With this money, I'll finally be able to rent a decent place. I calmly finished writing my reply. Chelsea took the letter and ran off. Inside the private room, Zhang Jiao was making another bet. This time, the bet was on how long it would take me to find him. I checked the time and pushed the door open. Zhang Jiao raised his eyebrows triumphantly. "See that? Exactly 2 hours. My little mute has a nose like a dog. Even if I hid in a crack, she'd still sniff me out."
讲这样文字。
I took the 50 taels of silver from his hand.
将军要突然二了外卖修者提起，看被逗比为可能会什么，可能都埋头。
I kept my head down, carefully putting the silver away. I couldn't care less about him. I just couldn't bear to leave his money. Studying medicine in the capital is incredibly expensive. Leeching off the Jiang family saves me a fortune. Hey, do me a favor and help me win one more bet, okay? If I win this time, they have to give me a hot spring villa in the suburbs. Once we get married, I'll take you there to live. I simply nodded and agreed. This was the third time Zhang Jia could use me as a betting chip. This time, he wanted to bet his friends on just how much I loved him. Shilling, let's call off our engagement. In the future, I'll marry Fa Ying as my wife, and you can be my concubine. How about that? I agreed instantly. I wrote the annulment letter right then and there. Today, all ties are severed. Our paths diverge here.
薛灵验将其爻，小好弄何得色修义，在这一三犯。
Each is free to marry whom they choose. Should either of us regret this decision, may we be cast into eternal misery. Hey, it's just a joke. Why write so much? Don't tell me you actually want to call off our engagement? Oh my god! Heavens! Xiuling loves young Master Jiang so much she's willing to throw away all her dignity. She's practically begging to be humiliated. Jiang Jian raised his eyebrows, looking utterly smug. He didn't hesitate for a single second. I signed my name on the engagement cancellation document. I quickly took away the annulment paper and turned to leave. Behind me, Zhang Jiao sneers. She's probably going to hide somewhere and cry again. He really thinks I'm hopelessly in love with him. Once I step outside, I count the silver in my hand. With this, I finally saved up the full 200. I immediately head to the government office to register my residency. With my own household registry, I won't need anyone else to vouch for me, and I can lease any house I want on my own. Having won a mansion this time,
将日料是一个以灿醒来过目。
for once, he is actually behaving and staying home to study. Flipping through the family collection catalog, he says, "Sha Yoye, what do you want for your betrothal gifts? And don't you dare ask for money or houses. That's just cheap and tacky." I ignore him, hiding to one side as I write a reply to someone else. The other person is also asking me what betrothal gifts I want. So I make a huge demand and write back. 200 tiles of silver and a small house. Seeing that I'm ignoring him, Zhang Xia scoffed in disdain. "I've already prepared 20,000 taels of silver, 10 shops, and 3 houses for you. Don't bring up those vulgar things. Think about it carefully. Is there anything you wanted in the past but could never get? Even if you want the moon in the sky, I'll pluck it down for you.
I think to myself, isn't this just making things difficult?
Money isn't good enough. Yet, if he insists I ask for something rare and unusual, I rack my brain and cautiously add a request for Jinan peach blossom cakes. I still remember when I was young, watching my younger brother eat them. I could only hide in the shadows and drool, secretly hoping a piece would fall to the ground. Only after he left did I dare to run over, picking up the crumbs from the dirt to get a taste.
To this day, I still don't know what a whole peach blossom cake tastes like.
Yon Jiao throws a crumpled piece of paper at me, urging me to reply to him. So I casually write back, I want the moon. This completely exasperates Zhang Jiao. He walks over, pinches my cheek, and says, I really spoil you too much, don't I? Why don't you just ask me to carve out my heart and give it to you? What would I even do with that thing? It's dirty, smelly, and completely worthless. Hurry up. If we're talking about a serious betrothal gift, I thought about it for a moment and wrote down 20,000 taels of silver and 3 estates. Then,
Jiang Jiao burst into a belly laugh.
you really have some nerve opening your mouth like that, you little mute.
Why don't you look in a bronze mirror and see if you even deserve it?
I completely ignored him. I thought to myself, if a piece of trash like you deserves to have so much wealth, I don't. I'm still in my prime, and I'm hardworking and ambitious. Once I pass the exam for the Imperial Medical Academy, my future will be limitless. I will keep moving forward, while Zhang Jiao will just keep rotting away forever. I remember when you were 12 and talking in your sleep while sick, saying you wanted peach blossom cake. How about I just give you 100 pounds of peach blossom cake as your betrothal gift? He laughed hysterically. I shuffled a bit further away, afraid his sheer stupidity might be contagious. Seeing that I was completely ignoring him,
将军这样破了的手，上到无事的时间了。
but though his body was in the study, his mind had already flown into Lu Feng's arms. The two of them had exchanged plenty of scandalous, dirty letters. I just pretended not to notice. I cast a glance at the desk. Those letters were still tucked inside his holy scriptures, making Zhang Jiao feel a bit guilty. Lu Fenggen is just the daughter of a mere songstress.
I only treat her like a sister.
You are the one who will be my wife in the future, so there is no need to get jealous over her.
打着专西亚副介饰品。
He fanned his sleeves as if complaining about the heat, and Ri Fangli's pink undergarment fell right out of his sleeve. It made me sick to my stomach. I grabbed my own letters and ran out.
将军要有粮打着你。张居的有过宽以头门的劲。
And get me scolded. But he was dead wrong. Ever since I completely gave up on him, my only goal was to squeeze every last penny out of him. I would never shed another tear, for his sake, and handed the letters to the young servant at the back gate. The boy, holding a piping hot clay pot of soup, carefully handed it to me, saying, the other day when you visited our manor, the young master noticed you had an extra bowl, so he specially had me deliver some more today. He said if you like it, he will send the chef over to you. I hurriedly waved my hand in refusal. But then, I thought about it and pulled out a charcoal pencil, adding a line. No need to send the chef. Once I marry him, I'll be able to enjoy it every day. After waiting for over 10 days, my household registration was finally processed. I immediately rented a house and prepared to move. It was only when I started packing that I realized, after living here for 8 years, this place was actually packed full of things.
将军之雅于是的提醒们，say, other than Mary and me,
where else could you possibly go? If you ever tried to leave, you wouldn't even be able to pack all your belongings. But in reality, leaving is actually very simple. You move a little bit today and a little bit more tomorrow. Everything I accumulated over 8 years took only 3 days to move. It is just like my 8 years of feelings for Zhang Jiao, cleared away in a single breath. When a person wants to let go, it doesn't depend on whether they have enough time, but whether they have the resolve and the absolute determination. Now the only things left on the display cabinet are the gifts from Zhang Xiao. When I further moved in, he saw how empty my room was and immediately became displeased. And, without saying a word, he dragged me to his own room to grab things. A blue and white porcelain vase worth a fortune, a rare Hetian jade lion, and an exquisite sandalwood screen. He took whatever was most expensive. Finally, he walked over with a plum blossom vase. The butler quickly tried to stop him, saying, "Young master, this was bestowed by the late emperor. You cannot give this away." But to everyone's shock, Zhang Jiao instantly smashed the vase right at the butler's feet. The butler's face turned stark white with fear as he knelt on the ground, trembling uncontrollably. The servants who used to insult me fell to their knees as he roared, "You bunch of opportunistic social climbing snobs! You look down on Miss Shui just because she is an orphan girl from Jiaonan and think you can mistreat her. But let me tell you, I owe her father my life. And she is half the master of the Zhang family." Back then, my heart felt so warm. I thought to myself, if I really ended up marrying Zhang Jiao, I would be genuinely happy. Once we got back to the room, I stole a quick glance at him, holding back my excitement. I wrote on a piece of paper, "When did we get engaged?"
How come I never knew about this?
My mother forced me into it. He sneered. She said your father gave up his life to save me, so I have to take responsibility for your future. So, that was the truth. My fluttering heart suddenly went cold, thinking like a stone. He sneered. Do you honestly think I actually want to marry a country bumpkin like you? Besides, the one I love is you, Fondi, the most talented woman in Jinzhou. A girl like you can't even compare to a single finger of hers. Everyone on the outside thought I was the one who begged for this marriage. But in reality, it was Zhang Jiao himself who brought it up first. But now, there's no point in dwelling on any of this. From the night he drugged me and threw me in the Ling Changyang's room, I completely gave up on him.
Ling Changwen is Yang Xiao's older cousin.
At 25 years old, he is still unmarried. He was crowned a prince at a young age and has held immense power for years. He is a man of extreme caution and reserve. But the strange thing is, even though Zhang Jiao is terrified of him, I never was. Every time Zhang Jiao hurt me so badly that I hid away to cry, Ling Changwen was always the first to find me. He never tried to comfort me, nor did he ever ask why I was crying. He would just wait until I was cried out. Then, he would pull out a handkerchief, hand it to me, and let me wipe my tears. Before leaving, he would always give me a sweet piece of candy. Sometimes it was orange-flavored, and other times, peach-flavored. Ling Changwen once teased that I always walked the long way around just to avoid him. He asked if I was afraid of him, but I wasn't. I was just too shy.
When I was crying, my mind was too full of hurt and self-pity to feel embarrassed.
But once I calmed down, I felt too embarrassed to look him in the eye. So, whenever I caught sight of him, I would quickly hide. But that night, when Zhao Xiao called me drunk and pushed me into Ling Chanyan's room, I was drunk, yet my mind was perfectly clear. I watched in silence as Zhang Jiao walked away. He reached the door, stopped in his tracks, and muttered, "Little mute."
It's okay. My cousin won't touch you.
The door clicked shut. My tears had run dry. I knew that from this moment on, Zhang Jiao was dead to me. Yao Shixiao always assumed that no matter what he did, I would always forgive him. But that day, in Ling Changyuan's room, I did some incredibly wild things. On the piece of paper by his pillow, there was some messy handwriting. Please, can you let me study you? I'm begging you. I'll just touch you a little. And once I'm done touching, can I please have a look too? I wanted to die of embarrassment. I must have completely lost my mind back then. When I was at the clinic, the doctor who trained me saw that I was too shy to look at a man's body and scolded me, saying I would never achieve anything great. He said a healer must have a parent's compassion. In a doctor's eyes, men and women are exactly the same. If I couldn't overcome the pressure to look at a man's body, I would never become a qualified healer. So that night, fueled by alcohol, I made that ridiculous request to Ling Changwan. Maybe I wore him down so much that he had no choice. He actually agreed. But once I sobered up, I was overwhelmed with shame, terrified that he would see me as a loose, easy woman. I made up an excuse, claiming I was drunk and had mistaken him for Zhang Xiao.
Ling Changwan's expression remained completely indifferent.
And he didn't ask any further. But outside the door, Zhang Jiao had already tracked me down. Cut the crap! How could my cousin ever fall for that little mute? That little mute will definitely forgive me. You guys lost the bet. Get ready to pay up. Stop crying over him. I shook my head. Once your heart dies for someone, you will never shed another tear for them. Then you should consider marrying me. This prince has guarded his innocence for 25 years, only for it to be completely ruined by your hands. So don't blame me if I can't control myself. This is the very first time in my life I've ever been touched by a woman. You are a healer, after all. Balik, why don't you examine me and figure out what's wrong? Why is it that the moment a woman touches me, I couldn't listen to another word. I covered my ears and bolted out the door, only to run straight into Zhang Jiao's arms. See that? My little mute is head over heels for me. You guys lost. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught Liu Fani, a flicker of mockery flashing in her eyes. A few playboys were looking at him like he was an absolute idiot. But Zhang Jiao was completely oblivious. He just happily pocketed the money. Now that my things are all packed and moved, there's only one last thing left for me to do at the Jiang household. I've been helping Madam nurse her body back to health. Once I make sure she drinks this final round of medicine, I can leave this place for good. Madam found out that I called off my engagement with Zhang Jiao.
杨就要，我是富士田叶，鼻子的死灰复。
And Madam whipped him until his flesh was raw. I simply walked over, wrapped my arms around Madam's, and gently shook her hand, looking at her with a pitiful, pleading gaze. Ifling, it hadn't begged for mercy. I would have beaten you to death, you rebellious son. I knew my little mute couldn't bear to see me hurt. Don't worry. Once I've had my fun with Yu Fengni, I'll settle down and marry you. And once we're married, my body and soul will belong to you alone. I glanced at the bite mark Li Fengli had left on his neck and thought to myself, please, spare me. Your heart is rotten and your body is putrid. I'm not a trash collector. Seeing the two of us standing together, Madame assumed I had forgiven Zhang Jiao. So she finally let him off the hook. Madame had to travel to the Jianan shops to audit the books, and she wouldn't be back for several months. Before she left, I urged her to finish today's medicine and packed a few more bags of herbs for her journey. You're always so thoughtful, Ling. Since I started taking your medicine, my body feels so much better. Mark my words, you'll definitely pass the exam for the Imperial Medical Academy this year. But at the mention of the Imperial Medical Academy, my heart sank a little. Thinking failed the exam twice already, I was starting to lose hope. Of course, Zhang Jiao just had to open his big mouth and mock me. Lu Fanning passed on her very first try. If you ask me, you're just cut out to be a servant. There's no point in wasting candles studying day and night. You're just wasting your time. Being my young mistress is a whole lot easier than breaking your back to earn a few measly pennies. Disgusted by his vile words, I stomped on his foot as hard as I could.
哈哈，讲姐叫我是刁辣铁。
Just hearing Yu Falling's name makes him so jealous.
His temper is getting worse by the day. What an absolute jerk. He got swindled out of several thousand tiles of silver. And honestly, serves him right. I'm certainly not going to help Zhang Jiao get that money back like I used to. Sooner or later, he's going to squander the entire Jiang family fortune. That's exactly what I'm thinking as I turn around to demand money from him. Right. Jealous? Then pay up. Chen Juya casually shoves a silver draft into my hand. He sneers disdainfully. Only vulgar people are obsessed with money. Marrying a woman like you will only bring a lifetime of misery. Once we reach our courtyard, I go back inside to pack up my remaining belongings into a bundle. He glances into the room and scoffs. Oh, you've packed up everything? You're really overacting this broken engagement drama, aren't you? But that's fine. It'll keep them from suspecting that we're putting on a show to fool them. In a little while, I'll come back to fetch you. Zhang Jia personally sees me out the door. Just then, the madam's carriage is still visible in the distance. Suddenly, Zhang Ziyo acts as if he's figured it all out. He laughs, mocking me. Aha, taught you. You're planning to follow my mother to Jiaonan, and then throw a running away from home tantrum, just to make me worry about you, right? Too bad for you. This young master saw right through your little scheme. If I could speak, I would definitely tell Zhang Jiao. Sometimes, your stupidity is downright hilarious. Your arrogance is honestly pathetic. I give him one last look, turn around resolutely, and walk away. This parting between Zhang Jiao and me means we will never meet again. As I reach the street corner, someone has already been waiting for me for a long time. He gently takes the bundle from my hand and holds my hand. Shall we set our wedding day for the 8th day of the 6th month? At that day, the Imperial Medical Bureau will release the exam results, and you will surely be on the pass list. We'll use our wedding to celebrate both occasions in style. We'll host a grand feast for the entire city, so everyone can witness your glory. He says this with absolute certainty. He seemed to never doubt that I would fail. As Lin Yuan talked about our wedding date, he seemed incredibly calm, but I could tell how nervous he was from his clenched jaw. He's afraid I'll reject him. Unlike Chen Xiao, that arrogant jerk, who couldn't stop talking about what it'd be like after we married. Completely sure that I was already in the palm of his hand. Whatever, I won't think about him ever again. I stood on my tiptoes, kissed Lin Yan on the cheek, and nodded with a bright smile. All right, we'll get married on the 8th of June. Zhang Xiao spent the next half-month out enjoying himself thoroughly. Even when he stayed out all night, no one came looking for him. Once he finally won Liu Fengming over, he realized she wasn't actually that special. Why did he let his friends' teasing get to him so much back then? Why did he feel like he absolutely had to win her over? It's strange. Xiling stayed by his side for 8 years. How did he never get tired of her? Zhang Jiao felt like he had truly had his fill of playing around this time. He casually said, "I'm not coming back here anymore." To which he replied with a smile, "Master Zhang, then don't forget to steal Miss Yu's medical notes and bring them to me every month." In the past, Zhang Jiao would have agreed without a second thought. But now, he refused her. She scoffed. "Oh, please, Master Zhang. Didn't Miss Yu fail the Imperial Medical Bureau exam twice, all because of you? Why start acting like a devoted lover now?" At the mention of this, Zhang Jiao felt a heavy, suffocating tightness in his chest. While he could lay any other matter bare before me, this was the one thing he didn't even dare to mention. The first time I failed the exam, he had deliberately drugged my breakfast, causing a severe stomachache that ruined my performance. Back then, he thought that if I got into the Imperial Medical Bureau, I would be incredibly busy and might even get sent to work far away. He just didn't want me to be so far away from him. The second time I failed, he used his wealth to bribe the officials, replacing my spot with Liu Fangdi. He simply felt that Liu Fangying needed that spot more than I did. She was being tormented by her stepmother and had no one to rely on. If she could become a medical official, her life would be so much better. Meanwhile, I had his protection, so I would be fine no matter what. But when he saw me lock myself in my room for 3 days and 3 nights without eating or drinking, seeing my complete and utter despair, for the first time, panic gripped his heart. She only failed the exam. How could things have escalated to this point? Is being a lowly medical officer really more comfortable than being a wealthy young mistress? No matter how much he tried to coax me, I utterly ignored him. In the end, it was my cousin who found a way to cheer me up and get me out. Using his mother's chronic cough as an excuse, cousin invited me to the prince's estate to treat her. Right away, I diagnosed the root cause of the illness. 8 imperial physicians had come and gone, yet none of them could figure out consort mother's illness. Only you hit the nail on the head and found the cure. It's clear that your medical skills are exceptional. Ling, you must keep studying medicine. One day, you will surely become a master of your generation. Inspired, I pulled myself together, studying even harder than before.
Jiang Xiao couldn't stand seeing me work so hard, leaving early and returning late.
He ruthlessly belittled me, saying, "Do you really think you're that amazing?" Imperial physicians had already figured out Aunt's illness. My cousin just couldn't stand seeing you look so pathetic and gave you a pity opportunity. That's all. Ling, don't think too highly of yourself. You refuse to make anything of yourself, yet you want to drag useless-looking down into the mud with you? Even if the imperial physicians had diagnosed it first, Ling did indeed diagnose the illness on her own. How could you so casually belittle her medical skills and dismiss all her hard work? With my cousin's encouragement, I worked tirelessly day after day. I worked as an apprentice in a medical clinic, gradually learning how to take patients' pulses, and slowly made a name for myself in the capital. My cousin would even bring me into the palace sometimes to treat the imperial consorts. Just you wait. Once Lang passes the exam for the Imperial Medical Bureau and achieve great success, she will absolutely look down on a worthless loafer like you. Recalling the madam's words, Zhang Jiao felt a sudden wave of panic. He rushed back home, intending to burn the midnight oil and study for the imperial exams. The imperial exams and the Imperial Medical Bureau exams were scheduled for the exact same days, with results being posted. But alas, he was terrified that this time he wouldn't pass.
早这是要他。He could be 避难了，马斯斯 quite for me.
Servants, prepare for a wedding. Young master, which noble lady's wedding are we preparing for? Of course, it's Ling. But didn't the young mistress of our Jiang family already call off the engagement? Oh, she was just throwing a tantrum. How could she ever bring herself to leave me? The wedding date is set for the 8th day of the 6th month. When the time comes, I'll be wearing my red wedding robes and leading my bridal procession to bring Xiao home. This is going to turn so many heads. It'll talked about as a legendary romance. I accompanied Lane Changwan to the prince's manor to pay my respects to the Princess Dowager. The Princess Dowager is the biological elder sister of Zhang Jiao's mother, and she watched me grow up too. She knows Ling Chaowen wants to marry me. This whole thing is quite a stir. It's just... Mother, if you have any objections, then please don't say them. What? Oh, so now that you're marrying a wife, are you going to throw your own mother out of the house? I stepped forward to gently massage the Princess Dowager's shoulders. She held my hand and grumbled, "You're not nearly as sweet as Linger." Still, I watched her grow up, and I know she's a good girl. How could I not be pleased with her? But since she is marrying into our family, certain things must be laid out on the table and made clear. Otherwise, it will only breed resentment in the future. You're a man. What do you know about how hard it is for a wife when she's caught in the middle between her husband and her mother-in-law, and how miserable her life can be? I understood completely. The Princess Dowager had some questions she wanted to ask. Ling Changwan had me sit down and poured me some tea himself. I only have one question for you. Did your father really die saving Jiao? 4 years have passed, and I never thought I'd have to relive the memories of that day again. It seems the Princess Dowager knows that Ling Changyuan wants to marry me and send people back to Jiangna to look into some matters very carefully.
The moment Ling Changyuan heard this question,
He suddenly stood up, wanting to take me away right then and there. I shook my head and said, "Cousin, I want to tell the Princess Dowager the truth." Those words completely shocked the Princess Dowager. Ling Changyuan started searching for Dr. Lane for me 2 years ago, and finally managed to bring him here to the capital. For the past 3 months, Dr. Lin has been treating me with medicine and acupuncture. I can slowly speak now. But Dr. Lin says the residual poison is still in my body, and that I shouldn't talk too much. Yet. Poison? What poison? The poison my own father forced down my throat. My father was a gambler, and also a city gate guard. He was drowning in debt, and creditors trapped him inside our home. I overheard him conspiring with someone to smuggle illegal salt. Those thugs dragged me out of my room, held a knife to my neck, and said, "The girl heard our secret! We have to kill her. Kill her." But my father said, "Wait, who is going to wash my clothes and cook my food?" Those cold words decided my fate. Just poison her mute. Just poison her mute. My father personally forced a bowl of muting poison down my throat. I didn't beg him, because I knew begging wouldn't do any good. Once they left, I immediately rushed to the latrine and shoved my fingers down my throat to force myself to throw up. I managed to throw up, most of it, so I was still able to make faint sounds. Ever since then, I would secretly practice speaking whenever no one was around. But because the residual poison was never fully cleared, my voice was permanently damaged. Later, my father struck it rich, married a stepmother, and had a son, but they were too stingy to hire any maids, so the chores fell on my shoulders. During the day, I had to wash clothes by the freezing river until my hands grew rough and swollen like radishes. If the food didn't taste good, I was beaten. And if it tasted good, they barely left me any leftovers to eat. Late at night, starving and shivering, I wrapped myself in a stiff, freezing blanket, huddling on the ice-cold bed. I didn't even dare to close my eyes, terrified that if I did, I would never wake up again. This went on until the winter I turned 16, when I finally felt a faint glimmer of hope. Like spring might actually bring some warmth. My father mentioned that officials were always around, investigating smuggled salt cases. The man in charge was Ling Changwan.
将军衙他抬了郎务臣都江南，复制将是要我有所用李思齐来的田。
A wealthy young master with a heart full of endless kindness. I accompanied him as he toured all over Jiangnan, and from time to time, he would reward me with some silver. If only you were an orphan girl, he said. I could have taken you back to the capital with me. Well, I could become an orphan girl. So, even though I knew the ice by the riverbank was thin, I still coaxed Jiangxiao into going out to watch the river lanterns that night. The moment he fell through the ice, my father sprang out from the shadows. "You clever little wench," he sneered. "If I rescue this wealthy young master, it'll be a massive favor." He jumped into the river and dragged Zhang Yuao out, but he lost his own strength and drowned in the freezing water. When they finally hauled his corpse out, I rushed forward, sobbing hysterically. But while no one was paying attention, I secretly pulled out a silver needle I had driven into an acupuncture point on his calf. My father was finally dead. I wept so hard I nearly fainted, and everyone around us praised me for being a deeply filial daughter. After that, things became much easier. All I had to do was let Jiang Jiao see the kind of life I was forced to live at home. But of course, I needed to play it even rougher. So that night, I deliberately failed to light the charcoal, filling the entire room with thick smoke. My stepmother kicked me out, forcing me to build the fire in the courtyard. But I accidentally burned her favorite silk robe. She shrieked in rage and grabbed the fire tongs, lunging to beat me. That was the exact moment Zhang Qiao arrived. He stepped in and shielded me from the blow. "I'm taking you with me," he said. "We're leaving this heartless place." My stepmother blackmailed him for over 100 taels of silver. But in return, he forced her to sign a deed of release. Sitting in the carriage bound for the capital, I wrapped my arms tightly around myself. I knew that my winter had finally come to an end. The spring that belonged to me was a little late. Had not arrived at last. "Your Highness, I'm the one who killed my father. If you feel that makes me unworthy of marrying into the prince's estate, I will leave right now." To my surprise, the dowager princess broke down, weeping uncontrollably. She pulled me tight into her arms and snapped, "Who dares say you aren't worthy? I'll be the first to make them pay." "Mother, she has spoken so much," and her voice is completely hoarse. "It's time for her to take her medicine." "Yes, go, quickly. Take it. Make sure you drink it all." "Actually, you saw me pull out that silver needle back then, didn't you?" All these years, there was another reason why I fled every time I saw Ling Changwen, and that was my guilty conscience. Back then, right after I killed my father, I turned around and saw Ling Changwen standing just outside the crowd, watching me in absolute silence. Back then, the ruthless way he handled the illegal salt smuggling case had terrified the entire Jiang'an region. I already knew from Zhang Xiao that this young prince was incredibly sharp and meticulous. He must have seen right through my scheme. Yes, I did see it. At that time, I had just executed hundreds of illegal salt smugglers. You only killed one person, so I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Speaking of which, after we returned to the capital, Jiang Xiao always brought you to the prince's estate to visit, and you even stayed here every other day. He described me as a terrifying monster. So why weren't you afraid of me? You saw me kill someone and still let me go. So how could you possibly be an evil person? Ling Changwen turned to look at me. He glanced around and unable to hold back any longer. He leaned down and kissed my forehead. In that moment, our hearts were perfectly in sync. From the very moment he met me, he knew the true color of my soul.
And no matter how much others slandered him, it could never sway my judgment of him.
Lin Kanchen was busy preparing for the wedding.
I was busy preparing for my exams, and the dowager princess was busy organizing the estate. Countless people were coming and going through the prince's estate all day long. Everyone in the capital knew that the prince, who was still unmarried at 25, was finally getting married.
Zhang Jia was picking out fabrics at the silk shop.
We hear the shocking news and froze in disbelief.
Which prince? Ha! Your cousin, Master Zhang, of course. The legendary Prince Nin himself. My cousin is getting married? And he didn't even bother to tell me?
The prince's estate was alive with the songs of magpies.
Decorated in bursts of vibrant, festive colors. It was a far cry from the cold, lifeless fortress it used to be. Hey, don't go over there.
The princess consort prefers her peace and quiet.
Whoa, every single one of these betrothal gifts is a priceless treasure. Is my cousin marrying an actual goddess? Terrified that this little troublemaker would ruin the precious gifts, the butler quickly waved his hand, ordering the servants to carry them away.
Zhang Jiao clutched the betrothal gift list in his pocket, suddenly feeling like his own offerings were embarrassingly cheap, but then he shrugged it off.
Who does that little mute think she is, anyway? How could she ever compare to my cousin's royal bride? Even if I don't give her a single penny. That pathetic mute should still be groveling in gratitude.
Zhang Jiao quietly sneaked into the backyard.
From a distance, he spotted a young woman in an elegant gown sitting by the lake, reading and feeding the fish. Even from behind, she looked breathtakingly beautiful. Wait. Why does she look so familiar? Wait. Those little habits of hers. They're exactly like that little mute's. But then he caught the faint, slightly raspy voice of the princess consort from afar. He let out a sigh of relief. Phew, it's not that little mute.
Of course. How could a useless mute like her ever be the princess consort?
He wanted to sneak another look, but a towering guard silently blocked his path. Grabbing him by the collar, the guard threw him right out of the estate. The prince has given strict orders. If Master Zhao dares to show up uninvited again, we'll break your legs. I was just looking for my aunt. I'm getting married in early June, and I need my aunt to help me with the wedding preparations. Why is Shuling's name on this wedding invitation? That girl already called off the engagement with you ages ago. Are you still acting like an idiot? The grand consort had watched them grow up together.
So she knew all about the despicable things Zhang Jiao had done.
He purposely kept Zhang Jiao in the dark about me marrying into the prince's estate, just to make him squirm.
Zhang Jiao was thrown out.
Back home, the butler rushed over in a panic. Young master, Madam has sent a letter from Jianan.
Zhang Jiao's heart soared instantly.
He bolted all the way to the study, gasping for breath. He had never felt so desperately impatient in his entire life.
He had written a letter to tell his mother and his little mute about their marriage.
Eagerly awaiting their reply, he pushed the door open, only to find a single letter resting on the desk. It was from his mother. Of course, my little mute must still be mad at me. If she only knew that I stay home every single day now, studying, and that I've stopped running around with Liu Fenging completely. She'd grow wings and fly straight back from Jiang'an. The more Zhang Jiao thought about it, the smugger he became. But when he tore open the letter, he froze. How could this be? His mother had absolutely ripped into him in the letter, scolding him mercilessly. She wrote that she knew with just one guess that he must have done something despicable again to push Linger over the edge. In the end, she pleaded with him earnestly. A woman's heart cannot handle being trampled on by you over and over again. Now that you've finally come to your senses, treat Linger right and live a good life. Stop messing around. But reading between the lines, Shailing had never actually guarded Jianan with his mother. In that instant, Zhang Jiao felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He panicked, completely losing his mind. She can't even speak. Where could she possibly go? Someone, quick, get in here. Find her. Go find her right now. If something happens to Xiuling, she gets kidnapped and sold off. What am I going to do? Calm down, young master. The butler tried to reassure him. Perhaps Miss Xiu just went back home? She doesn't have a home anymore. Yes, his little mute had lost her home a long time ago. Wasn't he always so sure that if I left the Zhang family, I'd have nowhere to go? Is that why he felt he could bully me whenever he wanted? I heard that Zhang Xiao turned the entire capital upside down looking for me. He was so frantic that he actually fainted right in the middle of the street. Everyone praised him, saying a prodigal son's return is worth more than gold, calling him a deeply devoted lover. But to me, it was nothing but a joke.
The official exam was about to begin. I walked to the entrance, preparing to take the exam. Looking back down the path,
I saw Ling Changwen standing on the second floor, his gaze fixed on me.
as our eyes met, he waved to me.
I took a deep breath and stepped into the exam hall. Soon, the 8th day of the 6th month arrived. It was the day the results would be posted. And also, our wedding day. Everything at the prince's estate was fully prepared. Wrist silk hung everywhere, filling the air with joy and celebration.
Lin Sonyuan put on his wedding robes,
And he was truly handsomer than anyone in this world. I want to go check the results myself. If I fail again. I didn't dare think further. I will wait for you at the end of the street with the wedding procession.
by tradition.
The groom is supposed to fetch the bride from her family home, but I don't have a home. If I pass the exam for the Ghanai office, that will be where my new life begins. When I arrived to check the results, there was already a massive crowd. I saw the Jiang family's servant squeezing to the front, looking around frantically. He was pacing in circles, utterly frantic. Oh heavens! Young master falling unconscious at a time like this of all times. Monsieur is bound to come check the results. When on earth is he going to wake up? The first 2 times I checked the results, I was always waiting at the very front, early in the morning. But this time, I stood at the very back. Just then, the officers from the Guinea office came out to post the list. Instantly, the roaring crowd fell dead silent. Congratulations to Shuling. Miche has taken the very top spot. Wow, whose daughter is she? She got top grades in almost every subject. Good heavens! The crowd erupted in a massive uproar. I turned around and sprinted toward the end of the street as fast as I could. Ling Changyuan was standing right there. The moment he saw me, he took wide strides forward and pulled me into a tight embrace. Ling Changyuan, I passed. Good. That is wonderful. Feeling the tension leave his body, I couldn't help but tease him. Were you afraid that if I didn't pass, I would back out of our wedding? I was afraid you would look down on me. A man like me? If I hadn't been born into such a good family and came into this world as a royal prince, how could I ever deserve to marry a woman like you? You are so incredibly gifted. You work so hard. You make me feel so unworthy, yet so incredibly proud. I squeezed his hand tightly, and with tears in my eyes, I said, Congratulations on coming to Slung Hasman. Let's go. Bring the princess back to the estate. Madame Zhang rushed back in a hurry. In the moment she stepped through the door, she saw Zhang Jiao lying miserably on the bed. Not only had he lost a massive amount of weight, but he looked as haggard as a beggar. She was both furious and heartbroken. If only you had treated Ling better from the start, none of this would have happened. She knew her son all too well. He had been spoiled since childhood, with way too many people fawning over him. Too many of them had hidden agendas, which made him terrified of opening his heart only to be deceived. So, the closer someone tried to get, the further he would push them away. Even though he loved Shilling with all his heart, his mouth could only spew the cruelest words. Get up. Madame Jiang splashed cold water onto his face, and only then did Jiang Jiao slowly regain consciousness. Someone, come and help the young master freshen up. Today, Ling passed at the top of the honor roll. Even if you can't find her right now, you can see her name at the posting board. Only then did Jiang Jiao show a spark of life. He said proudly, I knew it. I knew she would pass with flying colors. Madame Jiang rolled her eyes at him. Right now, the most important thing is your cousin's wedding. We need to go and offer our congratulations. But today is the day I'm supposed to marry my little mute. Too? Go where? You drove her away yourself. Go marry a ghost. When they arrived at the prince's estate, the ceremony had already begun.
杨居要萨林长要渊侯丁的白季寒试点欧个对句。
Standing close by, he noticed a crescent moon-shaped scar on the bride's hand.
将居要俘虏
He remembered it so clearly. The little mute girl had that exact same scar on her hand, and looking at the bride's figure, she looked exactly like his little mute.
将居瑶的哈李平的一头听到，
He couldn't help but shout, but the loud music and cheers drowned him out completely. He clearly saw the bride's steps falter for a split second. That's my little mute. How could she marry someone else? In his desperation, Zhang Jiao actually tried to rush toward the bride. He stood there, completely dazed, as if he had lost his very soul. Tears streamed down his face, and he didn't even realize it. The blister on his lip burst, leaving his mouth covered in blood. Madame Jiang was absolutely terrified. But a guard stepped up silently and knocked him out with a single strike, dragging him away. After spending 15 days of newlywed bliss with Ling Changwan, we both went back to our busy lives. He was in charge of the Imperial Guard, so he had to go on daily patrols and train troops at the military camp on the outskirts of the capital. Meanwhile, I had just entered the Imperial Medical Academy, where I had to adapt to everything from scratch. Just because I passed the entrance exam didn't mean I was guaranteed to stay. As newcomers, We had to spend our first year rotating through different departments to learn.
Departments like the herb division,
The acupuncture division,
and the massage division.
only by passing the year-end evaluation and receiving an official physician's license from the Imperial Medical Academy could we truly stay. That year, I was run off my feet with work.
While organizing medical files with my colleagues,
One of them whispered to me, "Have you heard?
Lu Fengting from the herb division prescribed the wrong medicine.
It caused consort Wrong to bleed continuously. She was dragged out and beaten. 30 heavy strokes. Her legs are broken." The Imperial physicians all reviewed her prescription, and they said her choice of medicine was bold, but it should have worked wonders. But who knew consort Wrong was secretly taking youth-preserving pills? The ingredients clashed completely. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted a shadow by the window that cleared my throat softly. Everyone quickly shut their mouths and stopped talking. My superior walked in, glanced at me, and said, "The Court of Judicial Review wants to see you." I calmly went with him.
The moment Fanny saw me, she shrieked.
"It's her, my lord." "She's the one who framed me." No matter what she claimed, I played completely dumb. The chief of the Judicial Bureau sighed in frustration and said apologetically, "Miss Ju, under normal circumstances, since the boys here often come to you for medical treatments and herbs, we have received so much of your kindness. We really shouldn't have brought you to a wretched, filthy place like this. But since the Yufeng keeps dragging you into this, we have no other choice. We have to follow protocol." I replied understandingly, "I understand. Zhu Fengying and I have had a lot of history and bad blood over Master Jiang in the past. She must be holding a grudge, which is why she's trying to frame me." The officers of the Judicial Bureau gave an awkward smile. After all, who in the capital didn't know about that scandalous, messy love triangle? "Why don't I talk to her and try to get her to confess?" I offered, since the interrogators were already exhausted anyway. They stepped out of the room to take a break. Liu Kangkin glared at me with pure hatred and hissed, "You knew all along that I had Jian Ziao steal your medical journals. That's why you purposely didn't mention that the herbs would clash and react badly. You did this to destroy me." "I have no idea what you're talking about, Miss Vu. You got into the Imperial Medical Bureau, and in just 2 short years, became highly favored by the Imperial concubines entirely on your own merit. Who wouldn't be deeply envious of such a feat?" I let out a soft chuckle. "But, Miss Liu, maybe that prescription was never yours to begin with. Maybe you just overheard it from some high official and happened to use it." Having said my piece, I turned around and walked away. Not long after, word came that Liu Fengyi was expelled from the Imperial Medical Bureau and permanently banned. As for Jiang Qiyao, who was supposed to inherit his family's peerage title, he was suddenly and severely reprimanded by the emperor for his depraved character. Deemed completely unfit for duty, his hereditary title was stripped away. Of course, none of this had anything to do with me. I worked until late into the night before finally leaving the Imperial Medical Bureau. Chanjuan was waiting for me at the gates. I stood on the stone steps, refusing to budge. He walked over with a soft smile and carried me down. "How about we head to Yong'an Alley for some wonton soup tonight?" he asked. "They think I'm a bad person," I murmured. "No matter what. Tang Jiao was the one who dragged me out of the mud. He once gave me a glimmer of hope to keep living. But I could never forget the sheer hatred of him sabotaging my exams twice, preventing me from passing. So I stripped him of his title."
Lin Chanzhouan gently sat me down.
And stared deeply into my eyes for a long moment. I look away, avoiding his eyes. Lin Chanwen gently cups my face in his hands. "Then you, my little villain, are far too soft-hearted. If I had been the one to handle this, Luke Fengking would have met her end right there at Dingyu Temple. And Zhang Jiang would have been exiled 3,000 miles away." "Be serious," I murmur. "I am being serious, my lady. True strength lies in ending the conflict. And when you look within and know you are in the right, sometimes as long as you are sure you stand on the side of justice, even if you strike back, you have absolutely no reason to feel guilty. If you hadn't kicked Zhu Fengying out of the Bureau of Apparel, there's no telling when her guilty conscience would have driven her to turn around and frame you. If Jiang Jiao were to inherit his father's title, he would only obsess over what he can't have even more and keep harboring ideas to pester you. It would only breed endless rumors, making everyone focus only on your romantic drama instead of your true capability. That would completely destroy all the hard work you've put in over the years." I have to admit, Yong Chemuan's words brought me immense comfort. Honestly, who can truly define whether their actions are strictly just? But in this life, living a little selfishly is the only way to go further. The next day, Madame Zhang came to the prince's manor to find me. She looked incredibly haggard, her eyes red and swollen from crying. She begged me to go see Jiang Jiao just once. "Ling, please, just go see him once. Just look at Jia, please."
江之耀喊本老大板后，
but Yim jumped from the second floor to come find me.
And broke his leg.
I realized Lin Changwan was absolutely right.
I couldn't let myself get dragged back into this mess.
But in the end, I went to the Zhao household.
Tang Jiao looked at me, his eyes filled with deep regret.
But the truth was, we hadn't seen each other in a year.
And we had absolutely nothing left to say.
Seeing my cold, indifferent expression, Chang Zhao bit his lip as tears poured down his face. Little mute.
I'm so sorry.
I was wrong, Chimtiel.
Once I truly, deeply loved you.
How could I not have loved you? On that night of pouring rain,
He held umbrella over us and took me to the lake to watch the fish.
we stood there on the bridge like two fools, sharing a single bowl of hot wontons.
In the summer, he would row a boat to take me picking water chestnuts. He would splash into the lake just to scare me, only to pop back up from the water holding a lotus flower, laughing his heart out.
The way Zhang Jiao loved me. That was real.
But the pain he caused me, that was real too.
In my memory, that bright, vibrant youth is still so vivid. The Zhang Jiao standing in front of me now. His face has become so unfamiliar.
Gao Xiaoko gasped, standing up and trembling as he tried to take a step toward me. I looked at him and said, "Leave the capital. Don't ever let me hear my name come out of your mouth again. Or my story."
Zhu Xiao, let's never see each other again.
I stood up to leave.
only to hear Zhang Jia roaring from behind.
"Are you leaving me? God. You've never reckoned the Savicer?"
Just because of Lu Finging.
I thought to myself, I guess that's just who Zhang Jiao is.
Even at this point, the only thing he can come up with is such a pathetic, ridiculous excuse. For a split second, I actually regretted making this trip.
Maybe Ling Chanyan was right. I should have been more ruthless from the start.
And had Zhen Jia exiled 3,000 miles away.